If action begets action, then the expiration of a 3-week ultimatum issued by the members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASUU, would spell fresh round of strike in public universities. But the federal government has begun moves to prevent an industrial action in public universities after expiration of the ultimatum. On Sunday, Minister of State for Education, Emeka Nwajuba, said the ministry has written a letter to the Ministry of Finance on the need for payment of allowances to staff of universities. Yes, I think from the vibe I'm getting now,
seriousness,
they are making, at least the federal government is making some moves before the expiration of that ultimatum. How effective?
It has expired already. It has
expired
today.
Today?
Yes. It was 21 days ultimatum, and today is the 21st day.
Today is 6th.
So
must you wait until
the last day?
You know, you see, this thing, you make promises, you don't fulfill those promises. At a point, I also would think that it is being deliberately provoked to go on strike. Remember, this strike was suspended in December last year after students had been at home for 9 months. 9 months. That's a whole year.
The COVID period.
That's a whole year, because there is no school that allows students to even stay on campus for one calendar year.
Yes, that's a full session.
So that is a whole year wasted. And after it was suspended, you got into a memorandum of action with these guys. The issue of renegotiation of the 2009 agreement with ASUU, because that was supposed to be periodically renegotiated. That was the agreement back then. Government and ASUU decided that yes, that renegotiation would take place. And Professor Musalin Jibrin, who used to head the National Universities Commission, was the man given the mandate of leading that renegotiation on behalf of government. Since that time, we have not had anything. Though Musalin Jibrin promised that, look, he was going to do his best to ensure that these gray areas were addressed. Nothing has happened. The feelers that ASUU has is that the Musalin had submitted his report, but government is sitting on that report, refusing to take action.
Just hold on your thought there. We'll take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still,
you know, as I was saying, there are outstanding issues dating back to the year 2009. Now, one agreement that was reached at that time was that memorandum of understanding of 2009 should be renegotiated from time to time. And ASUU is complaining that the government had not renegotiated that agreement. So university professors had been earning the same salary since God knows when. Because the issue of their remuneration has not been renegotiated. So what they want to see is from time to time, okay, given the prevailing circumstances, what do you think we should earn at this point in time? So they are stuck on the same wages. It's one of the reasons they are grumbling. Now, everyone knows that the IPPIS has issues. Talk to policemen, talk to some of the people who are enrolled on the IPPIS. And ASUU said the IPPIS cannot work in a university setting. In the university setting, you have lecturers come from other countries to come and do sabbatical here, and you pay them. But IPPIS will not capture you because you are not an employee. As far as IPPIS is concerned, you can only earn salary in one place. You are an individual. But university lecturers move from one university to another, you become a visiting lecturer somewhere. That is how the university system works. And they said, look, we don't want this. In any case, we have had all kinds of stories about the ineffectiveness of the IPPIS itself. And we can come up with our own. They then said, okay, government then said, come up with something that can be a replacement for this. They then came up with the University Transparency and Accountability Solution, UTAS. Maybe you are the one who said they should come up with their own. They came up with their own. You refuse to implement. You are still insisting that it is that IPPIS that must carry the day. IPPIS, effectively, as a VC, you cannot hire. Even if you hire, then you must pay with your own salary, because that person will not be captured on the IPPIS. So there are all kinds of problems, and you look at all the demands. Which one has been met? Government said, okay, on the issue of end allowance, that it will release 30 billion. It went ahead to release only 20. And there are areas of promotion and all that. My own feeling is, look, ASUU could have its own problems, but never get into agreements that you know you will not implement, or that you do not have the funds to implement. And that is what the Senate President said to them, that look, you go into agreement with people when you know you don't have the funds. So this is the thing. If government is saying that it is moving quickly now to avert a strike, why did it have to wait this long? You waited till the final day of a 21-day ultimatum to start making your moves. Meanwhile, they have already started meeting.
Now that the Minister of Finance, the Minister of State for Education is saying that they've written to the Minister of Finance, so that I was told that a certain money is being held at the Central Bank of Nigeria and it has not been disbursed. I don't know.
This government seems to be working at cross purposes, and it's not really peculiar to the ASUU problem. Don't forget the same thing with the Ministry of Sports. When the supervising minister will have made promises on behalf of the government, but the thing will not get stuck when you get to Ministry of Finance, looking for one reason or the other to be officious. We seem to run our government more like a cult, and that's why we have the problem we have. I'm not really surprised that the minister is just telling us today, or this week, that they wrote to the Ministry of Finance. This should not be something that will be news. It should be part and parcel of the original arrangement that was reached with these people in December. That is what we've reached, call off your strike, and then you do a note of demand, as they call it, and send it to the Ministry of Finance. That we've agreed with the lecturers about this and this amount. Please release this money as per fallibility. We are talking of almost 12 months later. This is almost a full year. And you are just telling us on the last day of the warning that you've written for something you want to have done 1 year ago. That is how incompetent people who run certain aspects of our country are in this particular area. Because it doesn't make sense. This should not be news. In fact, in some other countries, I'm sure, this announcement will lead to the sack of the minister. Because this is not news. What have you done beyond that? If it's the Minister of Finance holding it up, let us know. Tell the lecturers. They will understand. But you are just telling them that that's all on your gra-gra. It was on the last day of your threats that we wrote a letter to the Ministry of Finance to do this. We are in deep trouble.
Jude, the Speaker of the House of Representatives even called the stakeholders, had a meeting with them, and even the Minister of Finance was attended that meeting. At the end of the day, from those things that you've highlighted, do you see the federal government meeting all or some? And do you think ASUU will back down if they just have some of their demands met? Because these UTAS that we're talking about and several other demands that is on the table, it's going to be very difficult to actually implement it.
If the will is there,
Yes, it will.
if the will is there, they can implement these things within even the resources available. It's about getting them to realize that, look, this is where we find ourselves. The country is largely insolvent. Now, this is what we can do. You can come to a middle ground. Both parties should be ready to talk. and make concessions. But to refuse, out of all of those demands, you are known to have implemented only one. That is the issue of visitation panels to universities. You know, when UNILAG had that crisis, it was one of the demands that ASUU made. That look, let's have visitation panels, visitation yes, for those universities. So it is the president as the visitor to the university that will now send a committee to the university, and it was that committee that investigated what happened at UNILAG and then found Babalakin guilty of not following procedure in firing the VC. He didn't have the power to unilaterally fire the VC. It has to be a decision taken jointly with the ASUU, you know. So they've done that now. Government has now come up with the visitation panels, or committees for the universities. That's one of the demands that they've met. Then, in my view, one of the very important conditions that ASUU will want met is the issue of injection of some money to freshen up infrastructure in the universities. You know, they call it the University Revitalization Fund. What is it that you want to put on the table? Let us see. Let us know.
Because the level of decay.
Yes. Have you seen pictures of students taking lectures, sitting on the bare floor, some of them hanging by the window? Some of those windows, the window panes are gone. So students are just hanging on them to receive instruction.
But I thought that was why they started the ETF, Education Trust Fund.
No,
in the first place.
See, the quantum of funds that you need is too gargantuan for ETF. If you go to some universities, go to BUK, for example, and see the work that ETF has done. Go even to the Federal University Lokoja. They put a lot of infrastructure, but if you look at the number of federal universities,
just like a drop inside
yes, there's a lot that needs to be done.
Look at now. Look at this lecture theater.
And they said
this one is even better. I said on the ground.
What is the number, the required number of students?
I wish we can find that picture. You see that one on the window, on the bare floor in the university. That's the thing. You see, that's this one's. These ones are beautiful. It's a luxury.
They are in a five-star hotel.
These ones are smiling.
They are in the five-star hotel.
So let us, because they think that the injection of the funds is critical to the survival of federal universities. A lot of these elites do not care. They will set up private universities. Every year they are licensing private universities, and they are watching the public universities die.
Yes.
You see the toilets of some of these universities, you almost collapse.
Don't go there.
Somebody filmed, one of Nigeria's oldest universities, filmed the... I didn't want to mention.
I saw the video.
You know, when I saw the thing, so that they won't say, what of your own school? Go and film your own school. You know, that's why I wanted to keep quiet. You know our people now, not your social media. They will go there now. So I saw the thing. I said, what?
I'm telling you.
And I know that some universities will be a lot worse than that. So this is an announcement saying, inject funds. Inject funds. Save these universities from collapse. As we say, VCs, stop giving these elites honorary doctorate. Let us work together. Work with ASUU to draw attention to the decay in the system, so that money can be released for us to revitalize this university. If we see, when universities go to defend their budget, what gets given to them is a drop in the ocean, not sufficient
at all
to make good things happen.
You are giving peanuts.
In the West, if you see schools, you go
Colleges.
go and collect government loan. Like in America, now if you want to read medicine,
Yeah.
they will give you loan, and when you start working, years after, they'll take
Yes.
back.
I think even Obama got something like that.
But you have to
The federal government of Nigeria cannot fund quality education 100% again.
They cannot. Two reasons, and I'll go back to Obama in a second. In Western Nigeria, even the great MK Abiola was given a scholarship. Even in our set, I remember that there was a time the VC said, if you make first class and upper to one, the school absorb you and train you. It's all part of the regeneration process. And that's why Unilag has this fantastic alumni that takes care of their system. But we'll come back to that. The problem that we face here is what Gidi has said clearly in black and white. The Nigerian elite has moved beyond public education. They don't see it as viable, and they want it to die. Don't forget, just last week, a proprietor of a private university had the audacity to accuse the government of not supporting a private business he set up with grants. That's how we saw that. I saw that as basically the first stone that I threw it. Because don't be surprised, in 10 years, the federal government will be paying basic elements for these private universities set up by individuals. That's how bad the system has become.
And they have their own
student loans in the US
And they force students to pay extortionate.
Seriously, the money they pay is, I will not mention a university that has only one class, 4 students. And they told the parents, we'll get more students as you go along. So there's really no timetable for that class. They will pass out when they pass out.
Some pay up to $1 million or even more than
1.5 million. And they have 4 students. And the woman told the father, don't worry, your daughter will make first class. Because there are not that many. Imagine that level of logic. So when you have first class from the university, I laugh. Because they say, how many are you in the class? They say we are only 6.
And finally,